Hello, hello. Okay, so I'm back again, and talk a little bit more about my Isekai story. And yeah, it's been a couple of days since last time, and I think what I said last time was that I had reached a point in the story which felt like it was sort of the end of the first part of the initial story arc, and that I had decided to try to clean up the text that I had written so far, rather than continue writing. Since then, I have not done any cleanup, but instead have written quite a bit more on the continuation of the storyline. I have written most of what I guess you could say is part 2, continuation. Not everything. There's some pieces that are missing. I have written some quite a lot of text that's a continuation of the story from the end of let's call it part 1, and I have written that text quite a bit, and then there are some gaps, and I've written several scenes that happen at various points after this, and what remains is some of it is mainly just connecting the text in a fairly simple way, but there are also some decisions I need to make about where the story is going and so on, and I guess that's the point I'm at now. I do perhaps have to try to think a little bit about how the story is going to play out, what is going on, and so on. I did have a ending written, so I sort of had an idea of the way the story is going, and I still sort of hope to end up with that ending, but things have taken a slightly different turn. I'm not entirely certain where I'll go, but I do have to think a little bit about what's actually going on and how the pieces fit together and so on before I write the missing pieces of this one part 2. But the parts that I have written actually I must say I was quite satisfied with how it turned up. I mean, it's not really sort of first-rate great fiction, but still it's I like it. That's not a very high bar, but it is what it is. So basically, I have a couple of characters that I added. I have one character that has shown up a little bit, and there's one other character that I am sort of thinking how to add in. I'm sort of debating whether to do that as start of part 3 or at the end of part 2. I haven't really decided. So, but I did make one other character that I hadn't really planned on being a major character, but turned out to be quite important part of the story of part 2. again, I wouldn't say that all these pieces are especially original or anything like that, but it's still satisfactory. There's still a sense of satisfaction when the pieces of the story fall together, no matter how much of the character archetypes and story elements are things that are familiar. But I don't really deliberately sit down and try to copy things, but I sometimes have a feeling that I have read or seen something similar, even though I can't really put a finger on where it is. And one aspect here, which was a little bit unfortunate, is that I was thinking about how the magic system of the world might work, and how this might have some effects on the story going forward and so on. And I was thinking of perhaps using the moons for that sort of thing, having something related to the moons, but I sort of, after having thought a little bit about it, I thought, wasn't there something about another campaign setting, or rather story setting, that's quite famous, that had done something similar? And when I did a little research, yes, there was. I dropped that idea, unfortunately. Try to avoid things that are too similar to other stories, at least when I know they are something that's very similar. I still want to use the moons for something, because there's at least 3 moons around this planet, and that was something that was this coincidence. I think I described the sky at one point at the beginning of the story, and it sort of ended up being 3 planets, or 3 moons that were seen in the sky, because you sort of want to have something that's different from Earth. But I still think it's possible to do something about the moons, or whatever is moving around the planet at a high distance, at a large scale, but I have to think a little bit more about that. And I have some ideas about some things that might happen. So I guess the basic thing is that I have a story that I'm working on now, and I have an ending and some things that might happen before the ending, and my goal is to try to finish that story arc. But beyond that point, what is going to happen next? There are some possibilities, and there's also the question of am I going to continue the story? And I would probably want to do so, but the way it stands, there will be some clarity, some resolution for the first story arc, so there will have to be something else that happens after that, meaning that the story starts out with a very clearly defined antagonist, the Demon Lord, and still not entirely certain how the Demon Lord plays into the events that are unfolding at the moment, but the ending that I have written sort of removes the Demon Lord at the end, most likely in some way, perhaps not in the way that anyone would expect, but he's removed from the game board, you might say. And that could, of course, create a power vacuum or something. But anyway, I think perhaps that well, at least what I've been thinking of is that you have this first story and events that play out there, and they are sort of events that it's mainly reacting to things that are happening in the short term. But if you look beyond that, you might see that there are reasons for the events that happen in the first story arc, and those events, those you call it these facts or changes, at least the things that lead to the events of the first story arc might be what contributes to defining the overall problem in the next subsequent story arcs. And you have these elements in these fantasy stories that are common, where you have some old high magic civilization, or high technology civilization, as in sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic type of technology. As you have in many stories, you have many famous anime such as Laputa, Castle in the Sky. You have the Black Desert Online. So I think many anime have this setting, and I thought I tried to avoid that this time. You also have this sort of common type of story setting, such as Lord of the Rings, where what you are seeing is the end of an era, an end of an age, and magical creatures are disappearing and dying, and sort of you have industrialization as what is driving the change, perhaps. And that's also, I understand why it's used. I mean, I really like the settings where you have, for example, Lord of the Rings. We have this dwarfs digging too deep in the mountains, and there are these old dwarven kingdoms with all sort of nasty creatures that have crept up from the depths and of the earth and so on. And these are very nice settings. Atmospherically, they are very nice, but they have been a little bit overused, perhaps. No matter how original they were at the time when Tolkien wrote his stories. So I sort of think of trying to go in a different direction, and that was why I was thinking of using these moons for some kind of thing. So we'll see. I naturally want to have some dragons in here also, and I guess that's something that might also show up. But let's see where we are in the storyline, and try to read a little bit further. So last time I think I read up to the point where the trio, it's now a trio, the protagonist from our world, and Ilareth, the elf, and Onyx, the cat girl, cat people. Princess and they were investigating this Vaughan seller, which was selling these Vaughans that appeared to be flawed, and they had the opportunity to study these Vaughans in a little bit more detail, and I think they concluded with these Vaughans being flawed, deliberately so perhaps, and this trading company from this magician-led country, small country, being likely a possible source of the problem. So they are essentially thinking about trying to investigate this company, trading company, in more detail. And that's how far I got, if I recall correctly. So let's try to read a little bit further. See how far we get. Now I have actually copied a bit of the story to the machine I'm using to do this on. So let's see. So let's start where we ended last time. Hehehe, Onyx laughed her evil laugh. You won't escape us now, fiends of Belrock. And Belrock is the magic kingdom. Ilres joined in, raising a fist in the air enthusiastically, then turned serious. Getting started on that should at least be simple. The trading company uses the house across the street from this inn as a base, indicating towards the window. And gathering around it, we looked across the street. The inn we were in was a sprawling set of buildings just on the outside of the town center, with several stables and other smaller buildings in addition to the main building we were in. This village was seldom the final destination of most that stopped here, so not having to go inside the village made travel easier. The Belrock National Trade Company had probably initially used this inn, and as they expanded had acquired the building across the street for easier warehouse access, and then gradually expanded from there. It now rivaled the inn in size, with multiple buildings having bustling activity. It had grown in size and activity quite fast the last 2 to 3 years, and they have similar warehouses in other towns, but this one is especially big due to being in the middle of the capital of Orenda and Sternwell, the capital of this country. It's also probably being used for goods shipped down to Wildmoor, she said smilingly at Onyx while mentioning Wildmoor. Onyx continued, yes, and there is quite a lot of activity here. They will likely have several caravans leaving and arriving every day, which presents us with an opportunity. We can pretend to be a group of travelers that are concerned about traveling alone and ask to tag along with their caravan. Nodding, I looked down at the activity across the street. There was a wagon train being prepared for its next journey, horses being led to the front of the wagon, crates being carried into the back of the wagons. The general theme of Blackrock attire appeared to be blue, the menial workers carrying crates and preparing the horses wearing light blue, a person giving orders and looking like a manager wearing a darker blue, and what were obviously guardsmen wearing a shade of blue close to black. How dangerous are the roads around here? I asked, not really being familiar with the area. My only expertise, or rather my only experience, was walking to this village, and that walk had been quite peaceful. None of those I had passed had seemed very concerned either. Around here, Ilres asked, quite peaceful, I would say. So, no bandits or similar. Not really, no. The king in this country is quite famous for having little tolerance with anyone attacking caravans or travelers. I thought, so why do they need all those guards? Does it not seem a little excessive? Both Onyx and Ilret looked at the activity before us for a couple of moments. Maybe. Onyx commented, they do seem to be bringing a lot of weapons with them. Maybe they are transporting an especially important or valuable cargo, Ilret speculated. We continued observing a little longer in silence. Was it just my imagination, or was one of the more powerfully built guardsmen looking in our direction? It does seem like they have a lot of muscle, but they should still be grateful for extra company. Let's go talk to them. Onyx suggested. I will stand back along with Ilrith, keeping a low profile. Better to seem like a normal group of travelers looking for some extra safety in numbers. You talk to the person directing the preparations below. I follow her gaze to one of the persons in the dark blue clothes below, holding a sheet of paper and loudly shouting orders at the workers. My initial impression of the person that appeared to be in charge was not of a person that would appreciate being interrupted, and this did not change upon getting closer. Attempting to project an unconcerned and oblivious attitude, I approached him. The guardsman had obviously noticed my presence, especially the person that seemed to be the guard leader was looking intently in my direction. Was he human? He did seem to be unusually tall and strong-built, at least taller than 2 meters. Did he have some giant blood in him, or was he just naturally strong? Focusing instead on the work leader, he at least looked human. He was also quite tall, but thin and wearing glasses. He looked more like an accountant, more comfortable behind a desk than someone that did much physical activity during their workday. His clothes also looked expensive and to be made out of a material that was probably best suited for someone sitting in the office all day. I had been dressed similarly before my unfortunate death. Clearing my throat to get his attention, he turned in my direction, not looking pleased at the interruption. He started to say something, but upon noticing my wizardly attire, he stopped himself. A look of confusion came over his face. I took the opportunity to introduce myself. My good man, I see that your caravan seems to be facing in the direction of Sternwall. And as luck would have it, we are also going in that direction. Would you mind if me and my companions tag along for the journey? One can never be too careful on the roads these days. We will of course aid in the defense of the wagons should we be assailed by brigands of any type. Irritation returning to his face, he looked over me and my 2 companions before answering. We have our own guards and don't need any additional defense. He paused, appearing to be thinking, then continued. Still, if you have horses I can keep up with our pace, I can't. I don't see any problem with you following along. The person that looked like the guard leader had been moving in our direction while we were talking, and upon hearing what the person directing the workers was saying, he brusquely inserted himself into the conversation, almost pushing the work leader to the side. No, we do not have time to have any amateurs interfering with our journey. You would just get in the way and make our job more difficult. The roads are also safe. No need for you to travel with us. The work leader, clearly irritated at having the guard leader override him, looked at him with bad hidden dislike. Did these two have some sort of history? Are you not here because this transport needed extra protection? The guard leader turned toward the work leader and stared down at him angrily. I am responsible for security. Your job is to ensure that we can leave on schedule. Concentrate on that. The work leader stared defiantly at the guard leader, not wanting to back down. The guard leader just continued staring down at him with finality, arms crossed in front of his chest. The work leader took a deep breath. Do as you want. He turned away, returning his attention to the workers, many of whom had stopped what they were doing to look at the confrontation between the two. Shouting angrily, he got everyone moving again. The guard leader continued looking at the back of the work leader for a little longer before returning his attention to me. Now it's your turn. You are disrupting our work. Leave and stay away. His gaze shifted to Onyx and Ilrith behind me, his eyes narrowing. but he did not say anything else, just stood there waiting for us to leave. Not really seeing any alternative, we returned to the inn, feeling his eyes set us back the entire way. Well, that was interesting, Onyx said, leaning back in her chair. We were back in the meeting room again. Is that type of reaction normal? Not really, Ilrith answered. It could just be that the guard leader is of the very paranoid type. It did seem like there was something special about that caravan. They should not need that much protection when traveling in this area, unless the cargo is very valuable. Hey, Onyx smiled. I think it might be worth keeping track of this caravan when it leaves. Looking out of the window, the activity around the wagons appeared to be quieting down. The cargo had evidently been moved into the wagons and they were now being tied shut. A group of guards were gathering near one end of the caravan, the big guard appearing to be giving them orders, frequently gesturing towards different parts of the caravan. There were a lot of guards and they did appear to be quite well armed. Maybe they were expecting trouble. On the other end, the coach driver were standing in a group talking to the work leader. It looked like they were getting ready to leave. It was also getting dark outside, so they were planning on traveling through the night. We fly after them, I asked Onyx. Yes, we stay a good distance back, but following someone on the ground from air is easy. She looked quite content. Even in the middle of the night? Sure, our elf friend here has no problem seeing at night, so we don't even need to use magic for that. Ilrith smiled peacefully. Stayed in the room a little longer. Outside it was growing darker and darker. Ilrith was keeping watch, but there were enough lanterns attached to the wagons for me to also be able to see what was going on. At what I imagined was midnight, there was shouting orders, lots of shouting of orders outside, and then the wagon train started moving, quickly accelerating in the direction of Sternwall. It was time for us to move. It was time also for us to move, Onyx eagerly running to the door. Ilrith smiling apologetically, we hurried after her. And, okay, I think perhaps I'll end it there. We have some things that will be happening shortly, but we can do that next time. So, they are traveling towards Sternwall, and there's what that happens in Sternwall. I guess there are some coincidences in this story so far. You have, well, the hero being summoned. I guess that's not a coincidence. That's just something that happens. Then you have the hero being at the inn when Ilrith shows up, and then that's perhaps the most significant coincidence that concerns the storyline. You have the protagonist could, I guess, potentially be all sorts of other places, and the things that Onyx and Ilrith are in the village to do, it could just as well have happened a week earlier. So that's perhaps the biggest coincidence, but you have to have something that sort of kicks things off. So I think that's unproblematic. And there's of course this wagon train, and which certainly seems suspicious, and it leaving from this place when they are here, that's also something that convinces. I guess I could always have added some kind of thing between them planning to investigate the caravans or the trading company, and them coming over this one. But I'm not certain if it would have added really that much. Apart from removing those events as a coincidence, there are some things that are coincidences perhaps in Sternwall also when we get there, but that's less of a coincidence since it's related to the events that will be occurring in regards to the caravan. I guess perhaps I could have added some something related to the reason for why Onyx and Ilrith is here in this village. And the reason for the caravan leaving from this location. I guess that's possibility, but it's not really that far-fetched. There is obviously a connection between the bond seller and this trading company. He uses them for gifting his wands, and he has gotten some wands recently in the order to Ilrith, and so he has to be in this village, and if there is some kind of communication between him and the for example the guard leader that's guarding the caravan, well, then it's not unthinkable that they at least would leave or stop by this place, because that's not really that much of a coincidence, or rather there is some connection there, so so it's perhaps less of a coincidence. It's more to the extent that there is a coincidence, it's more timing related. I guess if there had been, as I said, some direct connection between what Ilrith and Onyx are doing and the movements of the caravan, and you could say that and I guess I could always make the point that there is a connection, because at least if the seller fears that they are being investigated and that they need to move things along, in that case there would be a sort of temporal connection between events, and that would mean that there are perhaps less coincidences here than it first seems. So that's something it's possible to argue for. Perhaps I should try to drop some hints to that effect into the text when I at one point clean it up, if I remember to do that. Perhaps I don't know about that. So yes, so the next part is them following the caravan from the air, and then it's them arriving in Sternwall. And not long after, it's the point that I thought was the end of the first part. They will soon be getting to that. Hopefully, the next part of this stream will be in the not too distant future. Try to do it a little bit more frequently to move the story along. I will also try to write a little bit more, but I will have to think a little bit about what's going to happen. There are some things that will be the part of the final battles to finish. There are some events, some battles that happen, and there are some dragons involved. I'll have to think a little bit about how the details of that fight should play out. But that's still a little bit ahead. There are many things that will be happening before I manage to read so far. So I have I don't know, perhaps 3 or 4 sessions like this before I get to that point. And hopefully I'll be able to move things along story-wise before I reach that point. But I think for now, I think this is a good place to end it today, and hopefully not too far in the future next time. But for now, thank you for watching or listening, and I'll hopefully be back again. But for now, bye-bye.